So when we talk about media relations in tough times, particularly as they affect budgets, what we want to do is recognize that it's a valid story. Tight budget times will always get a reporter's interest, whether it's TV, print, or radio. So we want to understand the storylines that they'll pursue. Tax increases, of course, particularly property taxes. Reduced employee benefits, of course. General perception is that we're all overpaid county government workers anyway, so what's our sacrifice going to be? Job cuts, layoffs, and reduction of services, particularly if they affect public safety, family services, and services for the aged. These are all valid storylines, and a reporter can choose to pursue one or all of these storylines appropriately. Secondly, we want to remember that the press views their role as watchdogs of government on behalf of the public. You will hear this 1,000 times in your career as a county official. It's the public's right to know. And reporters hold dearly to themselves that they feel very strongly that they're accountable to their readers, their viewers, or their listeners appropriately. Now, I would like to ask how many of you stated your intentions of coming to NACO prior to it being broadcast in the media report? Okay, very good. Well, for those of you that did, I congratulate you, because I think you'll find that your public was much more understanding. And this is one way we can stay ahead of the story, is to get our intentions out there on the record before a reporter finds out about it, writes about it, it shows up in the paper, and then your public says, well, this is interesting, how come we didn't know this was going to happen? So I would encourage you whenever possible in a town hall meeting, or if you're speaking at a Rotary group, as Jim suggested earlier, or if you're at a church gathering, whatever the case may be, if you're out there in public, let your public know what you're up to, so then if they do read about it, they're not surprised by it. I also want to talk to you a little bit about tactics that reporters will use to try to get an immediate reaction out of you. One such tactic is what we call ambush interviews. Now, a classic ambush interview would be, you're in a meeting, tempers may have flared, you may have heard certain comments from the public that you didn't appreciate, that you thought were inaccurate, inappropriate, or both. The meeting is adjourned, you're making your way out of the chamber. A reporter comes up to you, sticks a microphone in your face and says, Commissioner, how do you feel about the public comments that you received tonight on the budget? My advice to you would be to smile at the reporter and say, Jim, I appreciate talking to you. Can you give me 10 minutes? Meet me in my office. I'll be happy to give you some time. That gives you ample opportunity. Splash some water on your face, take a deep breath, think very clearly about what it is you want to say and what message you want to get out to the reporter, and then take time to meet with the reporter. My feeling is, if you're ambushed like that, you're more likely to say something that you're not going to like seeing in print or hearing repeated back to you in a TV or radio news report. So I would encourage you to avoid the ambush interview whenever possible. Cold calls follow the same format. You might be at home, a reporter calls you completely out of the blue, wants a comment. Again, you can defer. You can simply say to the reporter, I'd appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, but can I call you back? That's perfectly appropriate on your end. And then the one that drives me up the wall more often than not is the I'm on deadline argument. I get this repeatedly. A reporter will call at 2 o'clock, he'll either request an interview from one of my commissioners or he'll want some information, and then he'll follow that up by saying, I'm on a 5 o'clock deadline. Well, I've stopped buying into that argument. And what I do is when I get that, I will tell a reporter, don't hold your deadline for me. And I found that it works, because I want reporters to have to plan their stories. And I think I'm getting that message across to them. So you can talk to a reporter if he's on deadline, but it doesn't have to be the moment that he calls. If he calls at 2, suggest that you'll call him back at 3 and take it from there. Now, using specific examples with regards to interviews in Delaware, we recently had dog control passed on to us from the state, an unfunded mandate. It's costing us an additional $200,000. So, a sample question from a reporter may be, Commissioner Jones, the County Council agreed to a property tax increase for the first time in 7 years. How do you respond to that? Well, now I'm giving you the question out of context. What this caused us, one of our counties, to do was have to increase property taxes for the first time in 7 years. So that's the context of the question. An answer could be, we were fortunate to maintain a steady tax rate for 7 consecutive years, but due to recent unfunded mandates passed on to us by the state, we had no choice but to raise taxes. Now, for my money, this is 2 answers in one. You're reminding your constituents just how good they had it for that 7-year period when there was no tax increase. And 2, you're admitting this is an unfunded mandate. This was passed on to us by the state. We have no choice. Again, in Delaware, we've lost a significant share of our realty transfer tax because of the law in the housing market. Now, for us, realty transfer tax accounts for a significant portion of our public safety budget. So again, a sample question would be, Commissioner Jones, County Council has seen a decrease in the realty transfer tax, which accounts for a large portion of the public safety budget. What assurances can you give the public that they won't see a decrease in paramedic services? Our paramedics are highly trained and highly dedicated men and women, and I will certainly do everything I can to ensure that their level of funding continues. Again, you get a couple answers in one. Number one, you're recognizing the important work that your paramedics do, or whether it be law enforcement officers or healthcare officials, whatever the case may be. Number two, you're not making unrealistic expectations that might come back and bite you in the nose later on in the year. And number three, since you're speaking from the I point of view, you're reminding the reporter that you're one person on a panel of many. And I'm certain all of you will here would certainly do everything you could to ensure that paramedics don't lose their proper share of funding. You'll hear a lot about off the record, what off the record means, what it doesn't, and really your best course of action with regards to off the record comments is to not issue them. Even if you trust the reporter, all reporters at some point in their day find themselves in an editorial meeting. They're in there with copy editors, they're in with senior staff, they're in with senior reporters. If you issue an off the record comment, there's no stopping that reporter from taking that comment into an editorial meeting and revealing to them what you've said. And when you let that genie out of the bottle, there's no putting it back. So I really think the best course, if you don't want to see it in print, and if you don't want to hear it repeated back to you, don't say it.